My guest at this time is Dr. Walid Phares. He's a Middle East and terrorism expert. He's a Fox News contributor, and he's the author of numerous books, including most recently The War of Ideas, Jihadism Against Democracy. He raised a few eyebrows in a recent Facebook post about the right path forward in Afghanistan. It comes at a relevant time, of course, because President Trump has suggested reducing the number of troops there. We'll find out what Dr. Phares thinks we're doing wrong and what would yield much better results. And, sir, thanks very much for being with us, as always.
Thank you for having me, Greg.
Well, here's what you wrote on Facebook. There is a way to win the war in Afghanistan. It's not the way we fought it for 18 years, and not the alternative suggestion to talk to the Taliban and leave. Washington, administration, and Congress must challenge themselves to win and leave. It could have been won within a decade. Now, in a later comment on the post, you said you could win the war from here in 3 years. So why is success so elusive, and what should we be doing differently?
Well, Greg, thank you for this wonderful question. You and I actually have discussed it over a decade almost, so we have a trail of previous analysis. We have, as Americans, explored two trends. One is what really happened on the ground, meaning armed forces, our armed forces, helping the Afghani armed forces to fight a kinetic war against the Taliban. We've done great. Our forces have done great, but at the same time, political results were not ensured. So every time we win a battle, there would be either a weakening of the government, or the Taliban will come back, or will try to negotiate and then use these negotiations to come back to the field. On the other hand, the other direction that we explored twice, one under the Obama administration and the other one possibly even under the Trump administration, is to simply quit, to simply leave and leave behind us some sort of political agreements. And as you just mentioned in my post, I suggested that there is a third way. And the third way is applicable not just in Afghanistan, but in Syria and Iraq and elsewhere, is to leave, but always leave behind allies, forces, and most importantly, civil society that can resist. Meaning we need to inject strength in a civil society. And let me conclude my point by saying those who can help us, if we want to withdraw, will be the same forces that the Taliban have used for so many years, the tribes. We need to have a policy regarding civil society, another policy regarding the tribes, leaving a strong Afghanistan before we surrender it to the Taliban.
Get a little more specific if you can. What should be the policy towards the tribes, and how do we build the civil society that will remain stable once we're gone? Because you're going to have some folks out there that say, hey, we've been trying this for 17 or 18 years, and it's just been too difficult to take root. So what's your answers to those?
I have followed very closely with everybody almost in the past two administrations in every department, lecturing to the military and engaging in seminars with agencies. Yes, we thought we were doing the right thing, but our policy was not giving us the opportunity to complete it. For example, you have two allies in civil society. One are women meaning the mothers. They are in contact with their children for so many hours. This is where you begin counter-radicalization, not at age 40 or 30 for those individuals when the Taliban will recruit them. And the second big army we haven't even used, which is the teachers. There are 18 to 25,000 teachers in Afghanistan. They are basically training the minds of the kids from age 5, 6 till they leave the school. So there are soft matters that we haven't done well. We haven't done extremely well in every single battle we won, ourselves, our allies, not the war of ideas. And the last one is basically the tribes. The Taliban have used the Pashtun tribe for the last 15 years. We haven't approached them strategically. We haven't included them in the government. I wouldn't vote to bring the Taliban to government, but I would vote to bring the Pashtun tribes where the Taliban recruit to government. And, of course, there is a much more complicated political strategy to apply.
What's been the level of interest in any or all of those elements, either from our administration or Congress or anywhere else?
What is very interesting this time, because I've made many suggestions over the past decade and a half, is that the Afghanis are interested for the first time, including members of civil society, because over the past many years, the kids who were 10-year-old are now 19-year-old. And, of course, you can see that there is a very great interest among women, NGOs in Afghanistan. There is an interest in the region. The Arab coalition was very interested in those ideas. In Washington, some members of Congress, the previous Congress, had demonstrated some interest. I hope that the new Congress will have a greater one, and the bigger hope would be if the administration will decide to try a third path between staying and fighting with no goal at the end of the day, or just withdrawing and giving it back to the Taliban. There must be a third option.
Where do you think the momentum is right now in Washington? Obviously, it could be a little bit tough to say since we just saw a new Congress sworn in within the past few days here. So do you think there's more of an appetite to do what Trump's instinct seems to be, and that's to say we've done about as well as we could and it's time to at least mostly back out, if not entirely back out? Or is it for fixing the problem in a different way like you're suggesting?
It's very ironic, but the three bodies of interest are themselves divided. The U.S. House majority, the Democrats, have two approaches. The Senate has also two approaches. And even within the administration, you hear those two schools of thought, either fighting the big battle or just quitting. I think the third way that I'm presenting may create by itself some sort of consensus, at least in the center, right of center, left of center, because that would, on the one hand, bring troops back, but on the other hand, do not surrender the area to the jihadists. I think both Democrats and Republicans should be attracted to this idea.
Let me get your reaction to another area, and that's Syria, where the president is ordering American forces to withdraw. Obviously, a lot fewer American forces. Do you have the same basic opinion there that a more nuanced approach is best, or do you have a different opinion on that one?
Well, I would apply what I have just applied to Afghanistan and Syria, really. We need a third policy between the one of complete withdrawal, because we know that the Iranian militias will fill the void. We know that the pro-Muslim Brotherhood militias coming from Turkey will fill the void. So the future of such option without some sort of preparation would be negative. And also staying with 2,000 troops while Russia is there, Iran is there, and other forces are there is not really the long-term solution. So again, before we withdraw, it's very important, the term before, we need to enable forces on the ground. And I can tell you that the Kurdish forces, Arab, Sunni, and Christian forces in the northeastern part of Syria are really ready. They have 65,000 troops. They are very clear in terms of secular, pluralistic, federative approaches. So what we need now is to have a regional front, a regional coalition that would deploy for now, and keeping American forces for strategic intervention. We can't be everywhere around the world. We need to bring in more troops, as the president say, but we need to be also very clairvoyant in how to do it and not let Iran take advantage of any move we do.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see how much traction your idea gains. I think America in general is receptive to it because they want to see results without being there forever. And this perhaps is the way to do that. Dr. Phares, always good to hear your thoughts and have you with us, sir. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Walid Phares is a Middle East and terrorism expert. He's a Fox News contributor and the author of numerous books, including The War of Ideas, Jihadism Against Democracy. I'm Greg Columbus reporting for Radio America.